Coming up next on The Voice of Alabama Politics, it's Hispanic Heritage Month. Also, threats of violence at Alabama schools. And the Alabama Cannabis Commission has gone crazy.
Innocent of a new and deadly menace lurking behind closed doors. Marijuana, the burning weed with its roots in hell.
Now that's some real reefer madness. All this and much, much more coming up next on The V. Welcome to The Voice of Alabama Politics, where we tackle the tough issues so you have the hard facts. I'm your host, Bill Britt, and today I'm joined by Susan Britt, research guru extraordinaire and the love of my life.
Hello, darling.
How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm good. Josh is on assignment this week, and he's been very busy. Hopefully comes back with some interesting reporting.
I think he will.
I'm sure he will. You know, one of the things about our state, and I love Alabama, I know you do too, but we have a serious problem with poverty. We are the sixth poorest state in the United States. We have over 700,000 Alabamians living in poverty, which includes 200 plus thousand children. You know, we talked about it last week about food insecurity.
Right.
And this is a little different, but the statistics are similar. But most of these people are what we call working poor. They work a job or maybe two jobs, but it's really not enough to lift them out of poverty. And this is an issue for our state. And I think it's an issue in every state that has it. But we can look around the world and find nations that do not have these types of poverty rates. They just don't. But here we do. And you said to me often, if you want to see what you care about, look at what your bank balance says, look at what your credit card statements say, look at how you spend your money. How you spend your money is how you prioritize things that are important to you. So anyway, your thoughts on that?
Well, you know, let's get down to brass tacks here. Nationally, an individual below the poverty rate there is $15,000 a year. A family of four is $31,200. By the time you pay your utilities, your rent, and all that, it goes right back to food insecurity. You don't have enough to feed your family. And this is just a crisis that is not just that simple, but also has bigger ramifications in that we don't have a good enough transportation system, but where people that don't have cars or don't have, you know, driver's license could get to a job.
Right.
You know, but we're looking at, you know, a big crisis here in Alabama that is going to take multiple ways to solve.
You know, lately we've heard people talking about, especially about generational wealth. Well, one of the things we have here in Alabama is generational poverty, because some areas of the state have not been able to break out of the cycle of poverty. And part of it's due to the lack of infrastructure, which I'll give Governor Kay Ivey for pushing that through. But because they don't have the infrastructure, they don't have the economic growth or the opportunities. That's like some of the complaints about the corridors through the Black Belt and stuff. Well, that's an opportunity avenue so that people can have access to jobs, access to better paying jobs. And that's a big thing in Alabama. Our minimum wage is so low, and you know, the legislature will not even let individual cities like Huntsville or Birmingham or Tuscaloosa or Mobile raise the minimum wage, because you cannot live on, you know, you can't live on $7.25 or $9.50 or you barely can live. You really can't live on $10 an hour.
Right.
You need more than that. But the state refuses to allow the minimum wage to be raised, even by cities that say they want to take on that responsibilities.
What to me is that's, you know, absurd, and it's just irresponsible because, you know, people, they talk about people that don't work. We're living off welfare. But people who are trying to work, who are trying to feed their families, who are trying to come out of the poverty that they're in, they're not affording them the opportunity to be able to do that.
Well, and you know, most of our working poor are good, hardworking people. I've heard people in our state house disparage them as, you know, sitting on the porch while they should be at work. Well, maybe if we looked at what kind of community they live in and try to make improvements to the community and present more job opportunities and raise the minimum wage, we might see fewer people that can be racistly profiled. Like
why don't we just get down to brass tacks again? It's got to be pointed out. Why don't we spend more time working on getting Medicaid in the state? And like you said, more infrastructure. Instead of all these silly LBGTQ, the school book bans and all of that, why don't we stop spending money on that and the lawsuits that go with that to defend it and work on these problems instead?
That goes to the next topic, you know, which I hear it from Republicans that are sane Republicans tell me, and at the State House, that they spend so much time on these silly issues like book burnings or book bans. They'd burn them if they could, on transgender youth, on you know, anything that's a culture issue, DEA, DEI, ABCDEFG, whatever. Right. But they spend all this time on that, you know, with silly people like Ed Oliver going on about how, you know, critical race theory sexualizes children. I mean, when you have stupidity like that, it's hard to get actual things done that would help not only the working poor, but the middle class in Alabama.
I've got one for you: Medicaid expansion in Alabama. And I know that's the boogeyman. I understand.
Yeah,
that.
Because it was 20
Obama.
years ago, it was Obama.
It was Obama. But let's look at it, you know, in dollars and cents here. For every 12 cents that Alabama contributes to Medicaid, the federal government will contribute 87 cents. So that means, let's just say every $12.90, if you're multiplying by hundreds, brings in $87 more to the state. $12 brings in $87 to the state, which can expand jobs. It can expand the income tax rates. It can build roads. It can get us to transportation to get people to and from jobs. I mean, just that one simple little thing.
Yeah, because it's paying for health care. You know, and that means jobs in health care, jobs that support health care workers. And you cannot have a healthy workforce without insurance in the United States. We have to have it.
And if you're doing that, then the income tax goes up, and therefore you can bring up the education trust fund to get to the 3.5% increase they wanted to take down another cent in taxes.
Well, they do when they pass that, when they put in that poison pill that it was going to be hard to get there.
They did.
But there are places we can cut taxes. There are ways that we can help the working poor and the middle class and get off of the nonsense that will not change a single life of a single person in Alabama in a positive manner. But there you go. That's my soapbox. You're watching the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back.
My personal biggest pet peeve is kids who are not properly restrained, whether that be in a booster seat, a car seat, or even a simple seatbelt. Kids, they become projectiles, and it's terrifying.
It absolutely breaks my heart to know that something so innocent could be punished so severely.
Your children rely on you to be that person that says, no, you need to put your seatbelt on.
Your home is your most valuable asset. But what if someone tried to steal it from you? Property fraud is one of the fastest growing areas of fraud in the country today.
As a district attorney, I've seen firsthand the devastating effects of property fraud. That's why I'm proud to support the Montgomery County Probate Court's REACT program.
REACT is designed to protect your property and to give you peace of mind. By signing up, you'll receive an email notification if a document is filed against your property.
This program is a game changer. It has the potential to prevent fraud and protect countless homeowners throughout Montgomery County.
So don't wait. Sign up for REACT today and protect your home.
Protect your home with REACT. Sign up today.
Welcome back to the voice of Alabama politics. Susan, when you start talking about poverty and the people that it affects the most, people seem to think that's a liberal idea. I will ask them to go study their gospels and see about how we're supposed to treat folks.
How Jesus
now I know
fed,
Jesus is woke,
but Jesus fed people.
yeah,
so.
but we don't want to get into all that. I do want to, though, today to mention Hispanic Heritage Month, and that runs from September 15th to October 15th. And it is a month that's set aside to celebrate the culture and hard work of Hispanics and Latinos that have helped build America, and the contribution these individuals add to our society, not just the food and the music and the dancing, but also the hard labor. A study done by the University of Alabama in 2021 showed that Hispanic individuals in our state are responsible for $6 billion with a B
Just in Alabama.
dollars.
Just in Alabama.
Just in Alabama, $6 billion to the GDP. So the gross domestic product of Alabama provided by Hispanic and Latino individuals is $6 billion. That's not an negligible fund.
No. I mean, you can go, we keep bringing up Boaz and Albertville, but when I was young, when I was a child, there was nothing up there. Nothing. It took you 30 minutes to get from here to Gunnersville. There were no red lights. There were no businesses. It takes you an hour now because all of the businesses and stuff that have come out of the Hispanics that moved into that area to work in those chicken plants.
Yeah.
And I mean, good businesses, nice businesses, but it's shown their contribution just to this area. I know a lot of it comes through, if you think about it, comes through industries like construction, agriculture, manufacturing, hospitality, and a lot of stuff in the service sector. But that's also growing the economy.
Yes. Well, again, I hate to be so negative on this thing, but let me tell you, if we mass deport every Hispanic individual in Alabama, your chicken McNuggets or your Chick-fil-A will go up so high, you'll think you're eating at a 5-star restaurant because it is, in fact, Hispanic workers that toil in those fields. If you like your house and you need a new roof, you better hope we don't deport every Hispanic in Alabama.
If you like tomatoes on your sandwiches at your fast food restaurant, you better not deport them either.
Again, they're doing a lot of jobs that Alabamians are not necessarily willing to do.
I am not going into a tomato field and picking tomatoes. I can tell you that right now.
And this is very true of immigrants that come into our country, whether it was the Irish, the Italians. They came here. They took a lot of the menial jobs for less wages than anybody else would take. They did them well, so that their children could become managers and doctors and lawyers. And we're seeing that now, where these communities like Albertville and so on and so forth are doing that. But I think in our state, we fail to even acknowledge their existence, much less honor them and celebrate the fact that we are becoming a more diverse culture that has these people who want to live in Alabama. They want to call this home. And, you and I have worked next to them. We've worked with them. We know a lot of Hispanic people. The ones we know, they're hardworking. They're decent people. They raise good families. They are very spiritual or faith-based people, but they do not feel welcome and a vast majority of the state.
Well, all they want is, like you were talking about, the Irish dream of coming here, working the menial jobs so that they can have their children even further provide for our, or add to our society by becoming doctors and lawyers and managers and whatever they dream to be.
Yep. Well, and then look, so I am celebrating
I am too.
Hispanic Heritage Month. I think is great. I think Alabama is best when we are diverse. And that's just my opinion.
I've even learned how to make tostados myself.
Yes, and yeah, you can do that. Hey, you know, the Alabama Cannabis Commission, I mean, it's just reefer madness over there. I mean, they've had hearing after hearing, year after year. They have just screwed everything else. Recently, a filing by Alabama Always, who keeps holding their feet to the fire, boils down to the fact that once again, excuse me, it's going to go to Judge James Anderson to decide whether to stop the madness or not. Now, one thing we learned in this latest filing and a report that I did is that, again, we're notified that it's the lawyers that are covering their own backsides. And that's what's dragging this process out. This administrative process that they're demanding on is an illegal process because the entire thing has been illegally operated from the beginning. But you know what it is? I got so many text messages and emails from people I didn't know. Said, how come Governor Ivey doesn't do anything? They also said, how come Steve Marshall doesn't do anything? They kept going, who is responsible? And there absolutely is no one responsible. John McMillan won't take responsibility. I don't know what Governor Ivey's doing. I don't know what Steve Marshall's doing. But if they're doing anything, we can't tell it.
No. And what they are doing, not Steve, but what the AMCC is doing is not transparent. They're doing what they're suing on is they're doing behind doors meetings, closed doors meetings. They're violating, you know, the Open Meetings Act in every which way they can. There's no transparency. There's no saying, well, we chose this company because, and we didn't choose that company because. There's none of that.
And I don't know for certain if Governor Ivey or General Marshall have any actual authority over there. I'm not sure. But what I do know is that when Kay Ivey decides she wants something done, by golly, it's gonna get done because you don't cross Kay Ivey. And this is becoming such an embarrassment. I mean, heck, we could have legalized marijuana throughout the entire country before Alabama ever gets to medical marijuana.
I would bet that's gonna be the case if it continues like this. But somebody's got to take responsibility for this. Somebody's got to put their foot down and say, enough foolishness. People are suffering. Let's get something done.
I think some of them are worried they might go to jail behind this thing.
I'm quite sure of that.
But anyway, it needs a fix. It needs to stop so the people that are suffering have the medication the legislature and the governor promised them. Anyway, you're watching the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back.
My personal biggest pet peeve is kids who are not properly restrained, whether that be in a booster seat, a car seat, or even a simple seatbelt. Kids, they become projectiles, and it's terrifying.
It absolutely breaks my heart to know that something so innocent could be punished so severely.
Your children rely on you to be that person that says, no, you need to put your seatbelt on.
125 to 620.
As a paramedic, you wouldn't believe the things that we've seen.
I've seen all types of horrible things.
I mean, we're there basically picking up the pieces from your worst day.
Everyone is just driving and not paying attention.
We all have the same goal. All of us want to go home alive and safe and harm nobody else in the process.
Slow down. Be careful. Care about the other people on the road. Don't be the reason that someone else doesn't go home tonight.
Welcome back to the voice of Alabama politics. Over the last several weeks, Susan, we've had threats of gun violence in our state schools, in our elementary schools, in our high schools. There's been a rash of them. There's only been one occasion, I think, where there was an actual firearm brought into the school by a student. But these threats are ongoing. And in some places, they're much more than threats, and people are dying. Children are dying. Our lawmakers do not care because they are a part of the culture of guns and the gun porn that's so pervasive in our country. I am a gun owner. I have responsibly handle my guns. There are no children that can get to my guns. They're not going to show up in a mass shooting in a school. But that's not the case everywhere. But this is going, we have been lucky. We have been blessed not to have anybody murdered in school. But our luck is going to run out, and the lawmakers have no answers.
No, they don't. And we're talking about bomb threats, gun threats in Foley High School last week. And this is in response to this Georgia shooting that happened recently. It was such a tragedy. Foley High School, Clay Chalkville High School, Montgomery Public Schools, here in Etowah County, Boaz High School, Southside High School. They've all had either bomb threats or threats of a gun or presence of a gun on their campuses. Now, this is something else that lawmakers need to get involved and get something done. We have 4 small children in our chosen family that are in school, and it worries us every day that something, and that it just gets to me that they have to learn to hide. They have to have their hiding drills. We're talking about 6-year-olds.
Yeah.
3-year-olds.
But
2-year-olds.
All we hear is the kind of nonsense, well, it's a mental health issue. It's more than a mental health issue. Yes, these people have mental health problems, but they also have access to firearms.
I tell you another problem I have. The Department of Education is not tracking these. They're not keeping up with where we've had bomb threats, where we've had gun threats, where we've actually had shootings or threats of shootings. They're not even keeping up with it. We contacted them for the story that Jacob did on this. No information. They don't have anything.
I just feel like that this is one area where if Alabama would actually take a hard look beyond the talking points of arming teachers. I don't know that I want a 23-year-old elementary school teacher with a firearm or a 76-year-old teacher with a firearm. And I don't know that makes children any safer. The answer lies in getting the guns where children can't get to them.
Yes, and to doing something, I don't know, maybe like put a metal detector at the entrance of schools.
Yeah, and some do. Some do.
Yeah. I mean, it's simple stuff. Stop with your societal bills and go to work on real stuff like this.
Well, it's just, thank God we have not had anyone die in a school shooting. But again, the entire country is affected by this. And it should not be that a child should have to worry about anything other than getting good grades and enjoying going to school and learning. But we spend a lot of time and money worried about who's reading what book and what teacher's teaching what class. And oh my God, what if they learn about diversity or something? Like they won't see it in their fellow students. But we worry about that, and we don't worry about how to fix gun violence.
What's important is what's not worried about.
Why it's not important is because the minority of the Republican Party does not want any type of sensible gun control. The majority of Republicans and Democrats want sensible gun control, which means keeping guns out of the hands of children.
And keeping assault rifles off the shelves.
Yeah, it's not, I mean, when your child has access to, your child has access to an AR-15.
That his father bought for him.
Yeah, I mean, that's a little bit,
for 14th birthday.
Yeah. And they knew this child had problems, but anyway, we're not going to do anything about it as long as the politics that means that they get elected is on this side. None of these people, there's a few of the fools who believe it, but not me. But I want to tell you, speaking of fools, the Southern Cultural Center, which is a neo-Confederate white nationalist group down here in Alabama, they had their recent meeting, and they have a plan that they want to secede from the United States and start their own country here in Alabama. We have tried that. It did not work out well. It was adjudicated in blood. But just saying. Now, one of the things they say, and I there's so much to unpack here, we're never going to get to it. Remember that our ancestors were not only here in the South, but also in Great Britain, and were Caucasian when asked, this is what it says, Caucasian when asked, Christ answered, I'm not sent unto the lost sheep of the house of Israel. We are the lost sheep of the house of Israel, that our Lord Savior came to find, God's chosen people. We will win in the end. And there is so much wrong in that statement. Somehow, Susan, they've got in their minds that because they're Caucasian, they're special.
Oh, you think?
And then they think that somehow they are the house sheep of the house of Israel. Well, that's not Christian.
No, you can't be Christian and Jewish at the same time.
I mean, but this is what they believe.
I've got a question for you,
Yeah.
though. Are they going to get deported?
No.
Because they say that their ancestors came from Great Britain.
Well,
that makes them immigrants.
But they're white people.
Yeah.
We're not going to have enough time to get to this, but they also, and this is a real thing outside of the craziness, is they have their scholars are putting together a curriculum
exactly
for K-12 for Alabama private schools and home schools.
Correct.
And it will be funded by the Choose Act.
Yes, it will be.
So these racist neo-Confederates will be teaching children this type of, you want to talk about indoctrination, this type of indoctrination.
Yes, that's all. I mean, our tax dollars, because the Choose Act was not thought through, which we kept telling them, that this is what's going to fuel further racism in Alabama.
Yeah.
That's just the bottom line here.
Because somehow, because they're white and they're Christian, but they're children of Israel too, or sheep of Israel.
I think they're confused.
Maybe they don't know what they are. But anyway, we do know they're neo-Confederates who want to separate our state from the United States. And we would be the poorest third world country in the southern and northern hemisphere. But there you go. Good luck, soldier. I hope you enjoy the stay. Before we leave today, Susan, I want to remember longtime lawmaker Priscilla Dunn. She passed away this past week. She was 80 years old, a wonderful woman, and she will be missed.